Mm. I have a feeling that we should probably start on converting this stack memory into some kind of shift accumulator, however that would work. This thing. I'm not entirely sure this is an ideal register design. It feels wrong somehow. We can revise that later, since this system we should be able to build completely modularly. We should just be able to cut the register bank out and replace it with something better. Screen space memory. That should be similar to the main register cache. Should probably start on this, actually. Starting with the clear gates that will detect the state of whatever's inside and clear unconditionally. Or wait. These are already clear gates, acting similarly to registers. Oh, I see now. So actually, I was wrong to wire all of these into that one or that one originally. It was completely unnecessary. That's all I really needed to do the entire time. And so now, if we, well, first affix monostables to this, because otherwise, bad things will happen. This to here, and also this to all of these. Oh. Hold on. Oh. Hold on again. There's a lot of things I'm just now remembering. First, remove these since we're not using them right now. I can rewire them later. Also, hold these low because they're enabling themselves without me explicitly telling them to, which is a problem. There. Chaos averted. Yes, the unconditional clear flag appears to be working exactly as intended. Just need to make sure that all of these are wired before entering any value, or otherwise everything will explode. And these should be all painted white to represent their clear function. Yes. What else does this require in order to be... Oh, I think I know. An actual input. Or... yes, this appears to be correct. Or would it be better to... No, this is fine. there. And now, there needs to be a read activate pin somewhere in here. And it might as well be here. No, here. Which will enable all of these. And so the new value will only be read when the read activate pin is activated. And this pin will be colored that color, and these will be recolored to something that doesn't look like a control signal color. There. This is beginning to look correct. I'm not sure it's a good idea to try debugging it right now, but might as well. I can already tell this is going to be a mess, though. In fact, I might even keep these two here as the move pins, since I don't want to rewire these each time. There. And also this one. There. Problem resolved. And see, it's acting like a toggle because of how little delay is in the system. No, wait, not... Wait. There's something not right about this. So when it's off, it turns on, but when it's on, it turns off without turning back on. There. Logically diagnosed the problem. It took more thought than I was expecting. Because the two on signals of these two are colliding at exactly the same point in time. Which I can fix by just doing this and wiring it directly instead this time. There. Now there's enough delay in the system for it to be corrected. And now we have shift capabilities. However, there also needs to be the barrel shift activator pins, which I assume here would be an adequate place to put them. Actually, this one should go back, shouldn't it? Or, yes. And now, first as a demonstration, before anything else, it is capable of barrel shifting now. However, another thing it is capable of is, this should be the pin for this. And color this a modifier color. And get rid of these two for abstraction. This is getting a lot of functions fast. But now, yes, once this is held active, it will carry around, but in no other case. And so, you can perform special operations, like cropping 4-bit numbers, however useful that would be. I feel eventually it may be necessary to also have a carry register for holding the carry, or possibly, yes, because there must be some way to shift into the next number, or from the next or the previous number. That's something to think about later. But I will, in fact, partially de-abstract these, just so I can find them again later, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to. And this should be the mostly finished shift accumulator. Added to our list of options. And then now we can have the output of all of these routed to one of those joiners that we haven't finished the design of yet, which routes into the accumulator input, which then is able to read the value and shift it and export it, and it's able to export it to all of these again so that the value can be reassessed. And that will be the first input, which will all be internal, an internal loop. And the second input will come in from outside, be read from one of these registers, or an entry in the stack, or an input, or any of those. Need to make sure this is aligned. What else? We could preemptively attach multiple of these horizontally and vertically to make a screen, but I don't think it's the time for that yet. Perhaps it is time to begin work on the control unit. I think the most difficult part to get right. And attach this to actually this first. And now attach this to here. And these pins, the other pins will not be used. So I can actually get rid of those. Erase them from existence. And this one carries back in, wraps around. And one mechanism for initially injecting a value and then doing nothing after that, which this would be the perfect place for. So that would be a NOR gate, followed by another NOR gate, or no, an AND gate followed by a NOR gate, followed by a secondary NOR gate that feeds directly into this system. And so on startup, it would then, the clock is too fast. I forgot about that. And so now, I'm going to need to figure out a way to slow the clock. Trying to think. Potentially one way. Yes, this is most likely to succeed. There. And that looks like a sequencer correctly. However, it is moving very quickly. I have a new idea. It involves timers. There. And now the sequencer can be tuned by this timer, as is, I imagine, ideal. And so it will activate these 4 instructions in sequence forever. That qualifies as progress. This thing. I still don't even remember how I got the original one working. The best answer for right now may be to just do it this way. One single tick of latency couldn't possibly do that much harm, could it? Hmm. The idea of the router still seems like a great idea to me. In which you would route all of the inputs to these ports, which would then be put through here into here and then routed out to any one of these ports. And these would all have access to the same wire as these ports, and so technically they're the same ports, just with a dedicated input and output. And so I could stack these on top of each other like this. And these two control buses need to be separate. But this looks correct. And this needs to be attached there. And now this should be an almost functional router, if not fully functional. It's a very primitive and completely unintelligent router. Smarter routers could perform basic instructions and have communication protocols and serial communication capabilities built in. But this is definitely the core idea of what a router should be. Also, a flaw. This router can only route one port to one port at a time. It can't route multiple ports to each other, or more than two. It's a one-directional single connection, which that's another thing that I haven't thought of how to rectify yet without using an actual microprocessor to do, or perhaps even uh, a circuit is specialized just for that. That's not a microprocessor. Hmm. I'm trying to think of what there is next to do within reason. Well, one thing I used to usually do is attaching these instruction registers onto the sequencer preemptively, because I am pretty sure they should be there in any case. And actually, I feel that the outputs of this sequencer should go through a monostable first before being used. Like so. And now these can be attached directly beyond. At this point. And the next one from it. And attaching this to here so that it doesn't fire at an incorrect time. That may not even be enough. Because notice that activated on startup. And we don't want these anomalies like that. We could just attach a timer to here and set it to 5 ticks, and that will probably solve it. Mm. Yes, that appears to have stopped the signal from propagating. And now this goes to here, and this goes to here. Or is that how it goes? Hmm. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Yes. Hmm. Although, hmm, the old design didn't work very well, and this I can already see is going to have problems. Hmm. Yes, this is based on a flawed design. So instead I have a new idea. Just extend the blackboard here. So, in this case, instead of taking one opcode and one operand every time, I have the idea to uh, form a different system in which, of course, you first take the opcode, but then instead of taking only one half byte of operand, you keep taking half bytes of operand until you meet a 0 sector, at which point that's the end of the address, and so this will have sequential addressing, which should allow for infinite extensibility, but very slow infinite extensibility. Things with a smaller address should be much faster to access, which is actually true in reality as well. I'm pretty sure I remember the case being. And so this would be null delimited or 0 delimited, and so 0 itself would technically be a valid address, such as this. This is address 0, address 1, 3, what's that, 6, or 7, yes, that's 7 and 15. And then this would be address 15. This would be address 16 now. And so this looks like it has a lot of potential. And so at that point, the only difficulty would be figuring out exactly how to do the sequential addressing. But I have an idea. The sequential addressing should be handled by the cache itself. And so the cache would have a system inside of it for taking a sequence of address information and using that to access a specific cell in memory. And so the control unit doesn't even need to worry about the addressing. It just sends that information to the addressing system that's built into the cache, making it even more modular than before. Might even be able to do something similar with the opcode, but we I think we really only need 16 opcode instructions. Yeah, this is a pretty good tool set, but and also it doesn't seem to me that we need very much more than this. If we needed multiplication or division, we could just write an algorithm for it using addition and subtraction to simplify things a lot. I'm just now beginning to think of how the software would work, and we've already mostly built the machine. But of course, this is the machine code level. We don't want to stay on the machine code level for very long. Ideally, we would advance to a higher level language early on so that we didn't need to deal with machine code. And we would only use machine code in order to write the more advanced language. And so if that's the case, the sequencer may actually be incorrect, because then we technically could be reading or sending address information or routing address information for an arbitrary length of time for arbitrarily long addresses. And so this actually needs to form a more robust form of state machine, wherein when it's in the address routing stage, it should remain there until it senses a 0 for a delimiter, as is pre-specified, at which point it will end that phase and move on to the next phase, which will be the execution phase. And this particular machine I am intending on having be more of a, I'm not even sure how to describe it actually. I prefer the idea of putting values onto the stack and then operating on them. So perhaps there would be a read information from cache instruction that would then specify a location in the cache and then route that value to the stack for operation. And so actually, our accumulator would need to be the head of the stack. And in such a case, very interesting. And so the second argument in any one of these operations would need to be the second entry in the stack, and the first argument would be the first entry. Now that would simplify things a lot. Operation times would drop drastically, not needing to wait for instructions at the time, but having them preloaded. A stack-based system would have the potential to go a lot faster. There would also need to be an instruction for writing values to the cache from the stack. So that's 2 instructions already added to the already stated 12 we had. So let's recount the instructions. It's 6, 8, 9, 10 for shifting. Why did I count 12 last time? Oh yes, for this. That would be 12 for enabling the shift. However, instead of enabling shift being its own instruction, I should probably have a single D flip-flop that I switch that will tell the next instruction to take carry or send carry, and so that will allow me to do wrapping on the shifting and also carry in and out on the addition and incrementation and decrementation of the counter. So that would be reduced to 11 instructions. And then 13 instructions for sending from the stack and receiving to the stack. For a 14th instruction, we would probably want an instruction that duplicates the value on the stack. That would be useful. And of course, another thing we're going to need to think about is unary instructions, which will then not take an argument, but instead just perform a single preset operation on the top value of the stack, which will also save time and address time and addressing and time and processing. And you could also do increments and decrements very quickly that way. And so the idea of a stack-based system is beginning to look more and more profitable. I have a feeling routers might actually be pretty useful for routing information around the board, the chip. The reason I'm so hesitant to start gluing these pieces together is I want to make very sure that I've done all of this correctly. Any one mistake can corrupt all progress after it. And this system is actually looking very primitive and inferior now. An obsolete system. And my new idea is to have a system stay in one state until it reaches a specific set of requirements, and then it moves to the next state. And also, I feel like conditional branching from one state to two other states optionally would also be helpful. So, more like a higher level programming language, but built into the hardware instead of in software. Or perhaps it should be in software, wherein the state machine would be a software entity on hardware, although that would require a different kind of hardware than I've ever made before. In fact, that would practically need to be its own processor, a sub-processor. Although, I think that might not actually be a terrible idea. Yeah, I feel like that's enough for today. It probably didn't feel like very much, but it was.